Okay, we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to get started. Great. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Juliet, were you able to find the cookie? No? All right, thank you. So we've got a good group. Big group. People in the back, I wonder if there's any way you might be able to move up in the front. That would be helpful. I do pick on people in the back more than I pick on people in the front. So appreciate you volunteering. Let's see. So I'm Steve Bernstein with the Waypoint Group. I'm not an Allegiance employee, but am an Allegiance partner. Waypoint Group partners with Allegiance to deliver, to help implement successful programs. So hopefully we'll help move the needle in that regard today. We do have an awful lot to cover. We're going to kind of cover 30 years worth of action and design in about 4 hours, and hopefully we'll make it as fun and interactive as possible. Several of you wrote to me. I did have email dialogues with many of you folks about what you were expecting, what you were looking for to get out of this session. For better or for worse, it's a lot, and it's kind of all across the board. So I mean, we've got some of the things that I specifically noted. People asking, how do I make survey results more actionable? How do I integrate feedback into ROI? How do I create and manage dashboards so executive management can see what's going on? How do I get people to take the right actions? I mean, so it's there's some common threads for sure, but there's some different experiences. How many of you were in the session I did? What was it, yesterday? A couple. Okay. So we're going to cover some of that stuff here, just a tad. So bear with me if some of this is repetitive. Actually, in fact, the first slide is a little redundant, and so for those of you that...
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
All right. So we've handed out all the handouts that we received, folks. So if you didn't get one and you're not registered for this class, we need to get your name and email, and we will get it to you after the fact. Okay? And we've got a clicker in the back. So did everyone register with Kim or someone at the front desk? Everyone sitting in here, everyone's registered, yes?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So if you did not get a package, you will get a packet after the fact from Allegiance. There you go. Sorry.
No.
For interrupting.
Yes.
I'm Juliet, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Juliet's with Waypoint Group. I'm Steve with Waypoint Group. There's Debbie's email address if anybody needs a hard copy. Debbie Simpson at Allegiance.com. Debbie.Simpson at Allegiance.com. Right. Actually, before I get into this, then, and for those of you that saw this, don't. We're just going to have some fun. But before I do, actually, just a quick show of hands. How many are in companies that are primarily business to consumer? Directly consumer. Higher, please. So, oh, awesome. So where's the receipt? Where's the other end? But I need something to plug into the laptop. Right?
It's wireless. Is it wireless?
How do I mean, whose computer am I connecting, right?
I don't know whose computer.
That's your expertise, not mine.
All right.
You know the down arrow works.
Yeah, we'll have to do what we've got. So, okay, so B2C, so about a third, right? So B2B, that would mean everybody else. Okay, so there's more B2B folks than B2C. There are definitely differences in a business to consumer type of program versus business to business. We're going to try to kind of munch and have some commonalities, and I'll try to point out differences where I can. but it is what it is. The other question I have is, how many are familiar or using or have some awareness of Net Promoter? Awareness. So most everybody. Okay, because so whether you're using Net Promoter or Net Promoter Score or that methodology, or whether you're using any or all of Net Promoter, I am going to be using words like detractor and promoter and passive, and this isn't a course in Net Promoter methodology. Maybe someday we'll do something like that, but this is really, it doesn't matter what metric you use, doesn't matter what methodology you use, they're all pretty similar techniques. What else do I need to make sure I point out? I hope we'll have fun, and I'm going to try to poke at conventional wisdom quite a lot. I hope we're going to rock the boat. Yeah, that's all. We'll see. So anyway, starting with this, and don't give it away if you've already seen it, but just a little riddle. 4 tourists are out in going on safari. 3 of them decide to go see the hippos that you see here. How many are left? 1. Any other answers? We heard 1. 4. Who said 4? Way back, so I'm going to be picking up. Yeah, why'd you say 4? You don't know. Just seemed like a good number to say. Yeah, I said, so let me repeat again. 4 tourists are out on safari. 3 of them decide to go see the hippos. How many are left?
4.
There are 4 left, because nobody actually went to go see the hippos, because if you know anything about hippos, they're really dangerous creatures. They're very protective, very territorial, so maybe they decided to do something, but they didn't actually do it. So that's kind of the theme for the day. It's not enough to actually make some decisions, we want to make it happen. Now if you want to tame the hippo, and right, because they're pretty dangerous creatures, how would you go about taming the hippo? Food works.
Understanding him.
Understanding the hippo. Okay. Food, getting to know him a little bit more.
Meeting his needs.
Tranquilizers.
How about that? Meeting his needs.
Meeting his needs.
Leave him alone.
That's right. Meeting his needs. I like that. So if we meet the hippo's needs, then we're liable to get to know him a little bit better.
Have a
He may not eat us or
symbiotic
treat us as food.
Right. Symbiotic relationships.
That's right. What's your
I'm
name?
Barbara.
Barbara. Nice to meet you.
Take him home for a pet.
Hey, yeah.
Hippo in the
Does everybody have
bathtub.
one of the name things? Yeah, if you could write your name. So in this case, actually, we're talking about a different sort of hippo. And the way you tame these hippos, the highest paid person's opinion hippo, is through insightful information that can drive action. How many of you deal with hippos in your companies that say, I think we need to? Just a few?
Nobody wants to raise it too high.
I mean, God, there's hippos in every meeting right? So what we're trying to do is say, you know what, it's not my opinion, it's not, I just want to do the right thing by the company. This is what our customers are telling us. At the end of the day, somebody else is going to make the actual action and decisions we need to make. What we need to do is to make sure that they have all the information that they should have in order to make informed decisions. So hopefully they're going to say, I think we need to, based on the insightful insights, the relevant insights that you're all providing. Just because I want to have a little more fun, to continue on with some of the fun, and I know the folks from SAP have seen this, so you guys, yeah. So if you've seen this, then don't give it away, but how do you put a giraffe in the refrigerator? Anybody have some thoughts? You can tell I love safari, I guess. I've never been. Has anybody been on safari?
Did you have to leave the country or just Disney World?
That's right, the elephant that's squirting the water out. How do you put a giraffe into a refrigerator?
Carefully.
Carefully. Cut off his head.
Build a really big refrigerator.
Build a big refrigerator. Cut off his head is probably one of the more brutal ones. we don't have to overcomplicate it. Let's not overcomplicate it. I didn't say it was a big giraffe. All you got to do actually is make sure you got the right size giraffe and open up the door. You put the giraffe inside. So again, let's not overcomplicate it. We are going to be talking about some concepts that might be different, that might be kind of complex in background, but wherever we can, we really want to try to simplify this as much as possible. So just to make sure to see if you've learned anything, how do you put an elephant into a refrigerator? You guys haven't learned anything? Come on. Dude. Don't you remember? You got to take the giraffe out. The giraffe is still in there. So let me try to be pithy one more time and just say, look, our customers have good memories. Even though we may not have had direct experience and the sort of longevity with that particular company, usually our customers have done many transactions with us. They have they have well-set expectations. We got to make sure that we understand our customers' histories and expectations before we can start taking action. So yeah, you got to open up the door, you got to take the giraffe out, and then you can put the elephant in. And from our customer's point of view, we got to remember what our customers are expecting and doing, and pay attention to their needs and desires. So that's enough fun for today. Now we get into the serious stuff. We will be today covering these topics. We have 3 hours and 45 minutes. There'll be some breaks. There'll be some group activities. I think when we're doing the group activities, we're going to want to get into teams that are kind of B2B versus B2C, so be prepared to have to move around a little bit. But we've got a lot of ground to cover. So one of the first things we're going to be covering is, what is trustworthy data? Are we collecting trustworthy data? Are we capturing insights that in fact allow people to make the kinds of decisions and take actions that they need to be able to make? And then secondly, once we've defined, yeah, we have trustworthy data, this is definitely actionable stuff, we need to do these three things, right? We've got to link to key drivers, we've got to make it actionable in terms of linking to customer value, and then, right, drive the right actions, make things move forward in the most effective way. So that's really the fundamental agenda of what we're going to be covering. And so let me ask a question. How many, you're all running or affiliated directly with a Voice of the Customer program, everybody in this room? Just kind of help me out here. What do you guys, do you call it VoC programs, or you call it customer experience? What do you call it, Barbara?
I'm embarrassed to say that. We still call it like a patient satisfaction program.
Okay.
You know,
I mean, a lot of companies call it customer satisfaction, patient satisfaction. You with a hospital or
home care.
home care?
Yeah.
Same. You guys work together?
No,
No.
but we get it.
Okay.
We understand the same language.
Right. Some other names. What do you call it?
We're voice of the client, but we're actually trying to gear it more towards a client experience.
Client experience. It seems like there's some direction towards that. Yep.
Loyalty.
Loyalty program.
Customer advocacy.
Customer advocacy. These are interesting, kind of more new evolutionary names, right? We have a hard time just with some of the basic jargon in our industry, right? Everybody calls things some different things, and people have different expectations. So a lot of times just level setting on what it is we're talking about, I would say, is a good place to start. What are some of the other names that you use? We've covered it. All right. Yes?
Customer success program.
Customer success program. That's an interesting one too, right? And Voice of the Customer would be part of a customer success program, just like Voice of the Customer, I think, would be part of loyalty and advocacy. All right. So with those programs, it sounds like everybody's affiliated directly or is running one of these programs or involved intimately with one of these programs. Who's got a stated objective for your program? Not a company mission or a company objective. Does anybody have a stated objective? What is it that you're doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? Yes?
We have a stated overarching goal for all of our programs, employee and customer,
Okay.
which is connect, evaluate, involvement. And the involved component is to take action to improve the organisation from a competitive
evolve the organization for competitive advantage. And then you said, what were the three? Connect,
Evaluate.
evaluate,
Evolve.
evolve. Okay, and why? Why are you doing that? For competitive advantage, what does that mean? Better profit, margin.
Okay, so ours is, it's a customer experience management program.
Okay,
And the vision is, the goal is, we're dedicated to helping our customers achieve the highest level of efficiency and effectiveness by delivering excellence in every interaction. And why we're doing it is, or how we're doing it is deliver on our promises, helping customers achieve sustainable results, provide operationally excellent support, and evolve the network. And the reasons we're doing it is competition.
okay.
We really want to make sure that customers can quantify value and employee satisfaction.
Quantify value, employee satisfaction. I mean, it sounds like, so all those things can be managed down to some core business metrics.
We're hoping.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to kind of get to. So why are we doing this? Are we doing this to measure the strength of the customer relationships? Right? We want to understand where do we have strong customer relationships? How do we improve those customer relationships? Yes, I think we're generally trying to do that. But probably more important, some objective, I would argue, around actionability, right? What are we trying to do? We are trying to drive improvement in the organization. We are not trying to measure. Is that controversial? Does anybody have a different point of view on that? So maybe I'll pause. Yeah, no, not controversial. But yeah, most of our programs tend to focus on measurement, right? And we publish scores, and we publish all sorts of metrics that, I don't know, may or may not be important to the business. So like the first thing that we really want to start off with is, what are we doing and why? And so we say, okay, we're going to drive improvement with the business. How do we define improvement? What does improvement mean?
To me, it's raising the customer satisfaction.
Okay, making customers more satisfied. Why?
In the end, you want to drive profitability.
Drive up profit, margin, revenue, decrease cost to serve,
Loyalty.
loyalty,
They'll come back and use you.
retention, repurchase, word of mouth, references. So, I mean, I think all those things are the things that the business people, the people that we interact with, the people that ultimately really are probably going to be the ones actually making a lot of the change. Those are the things largely that I hope they care about. Those are the kinds of things that I hope we're communicating more and more. So, starting with, you know, we've got an objective, we've got an agenda towards driving improvement. This is what we want to go through. This is the process, that essentially the agenda for the rest of the day. How many view or are viewed with your programs as a cost center? Essentially, where you're not expected to deliver direct ROI. It's sort of a hygiene thing that you've got to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So not too many, it sounds like. So most of you would say, yeah, voice of the customer is viewed by the rest of the business as a strategic imperative. How many people would say that the business views you as a strategic imperative? So it sounds like then there's a group of people that maybe are somewhere in the middle.
How about a necessary evil?
A necessary evil, which I would kind of say it's a cost center, right? Yeah, I think most companies feel like, yeah, we got to do this, right? But why? The reason why is because actually you're going to drive revenue and profitability off of more loyal customers that are going to tell friends, that are going to buy more, all the things that we in this room know about. So I think, you know, the thing that we really try to just instill at the bottom line is let's focus on that fundamental business result and just use that language. Just talking about that. Even for example, and I'm going to use this a little bit later, how many people talk about customer segments? Segments? Now, when you go home and you're managing your personal finances, do you say, I've got some money in my bond segment, and I've got some money in my mutual fund segment, and I've got some of my assets in my home segment? No. And I don't think many people do. You talk about assets, or you're talking about value, you're talking about things that are important to you. You've got a portfolio that is a set of assets that you're trying to manage. And that portfolio, I think, is really what we're trying to improve. You know, the rest of the business, I think, might be more energized towards hearing more about portfolios. It's a nuance, but again, I think all these the words we use are common within our vernacular and, you know, common jargon, but I think the folks that we interact with on a day-to-day basis don't necessarily think about it the same way. So we are going to go down our path. Who knows his name? What's his name? Lightning McQueen. That is so awesome. Yeah. So Lightning McQueen, we're going to start off with acquiring trustworthy data. Are we good? Are we ready to go? We're starting to drive our car. So we're driving our car down the road. We're having a good view of what's going on. Let's just take let's take an example that everybody can relate to with driving down the road. Let's say I'm a city planner and I want to know if I'm being successful or not. What are some of the things that I might want to measure with regards to knowing if I'm successful in building my roads for my citizens?
How many accidents happen?
That's an interesting metric, right? So kind of, are my roads safe? So accidents per mile, maybe, something like that. Okay, yeah?
Is it taking me where I want to go?
So how many people, how would you measure that?
Traffic.
Yeah. Easy to navigate. How would you measure that? There was something over here.
Traffic on the road.
Traffic.
Number of people that use the road.
Number of vehicles per, right? Okay, and maybe to your point, and I forgot your name already, and I know we did, Stephanie, and then also in the back we were talking. You might, yeah, maybe you can measure it by speed to destination, and you can get people to report it, or number of cars per mile, something like that. Yeah.
Directional, so, you know, is it easy to use? Do you have the right directions?
So how would you measure that? You'd ask consumers, you'd ask your citizens?
Yeah, you could. Or there may be some standards in the industry that say you need to have some kind of an indicator every 2 miles.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, so these are good things, and all of us drive, I guess, every day, and we understand and we know roads really well. We know what, you know, kind of what needs to happen. We have to have good roads, and yet there are certain situations like this that you would never expect, right? You would just, how on earth would you ever plan for that? You're sitting in the city planner's office, and somebody says, your roads are a mess, I hate driving on your roads, and you're probably thinking potholes, you're probably thinking too many cars, you're probably thinking about not going where we need to go, all the good stuff that we just talked about, and meanwhile the consumers got, or the citizens got like, this is freaking ridiculous. We've got these lines painted around debris that should have been removed in the road. I mean, point being, we've got to do two important things. What are they? Ask. Yes. Ask them what?
What's important, yeah.
Ask them what's important. Ask them why, I think, right? Ask them why. They said, I don't like your roads. Your roads are messy. Well, why do you say that, right? So we've got to get to root cause. Do you think your survey helped you solve this problem? Right? Your survey is not helping you solve this problem. No, what's another one? I mean, I've got another one in mind, but there's no right or wrong answers. I mean, I've got two in mind. So the root cause of why, what's another thing that we've got to do here?
What's your ideal experience like?
Okay, right. So we want to get to that, so we can ask the consumer or the citizen, you know, what should it look like within our voice of customer process. I think, you know, in addition to asking consumers why they are feeling the way they feel, what are other things besides talking to the citizens or the consumers or the customers? What do we need to do to avoid this situation? It's really, I think it's staring you in the face, really easy. What's that? You need to remove the debris, which means, whose job is it? The guy who painted the lines is like, it's not my job. Whose job is customer experience?
Everybody's job.
I think it's everybody's job. I'm glad we agree. Does anybody have a different point of view? I think it's everybody's job. Whether you're a product engineer, whether you're on the support line, whether you're delivering services directly, whether you're the CEO, whether it doesn't matter who you are, everybody in the company impacts the customer experience. So whose job is it? It's everybody's. So we can't have anybody saying, yeah, that's not my job.
So you're an advocate then of that TV show where the boss goes undercover and becomes one of the employees, that they walk the walk and talk the talk to see what it's really like?
So I've been, the statement was, so am I an advocate of, what is it called? The
Undercover boss.
Undercover boss. Actually, no, I am not. I really don't like that show. And the reason why I don't like that show is, shouldn't that CEO actually have direct dialogues with their people where they know this stuff? We have a white paper posted on our website, and one of the major section headings, and I hope I'm not offending anybody, one of the section headings says, the stupidity of anonymity. Right? When you're dealing with anonymity, you can't follow up, you can't ask why. And we already just found out, you gotta ask why, because your questionnaires aren't gonna help you get to root cause. So what does this have to do with trustworthy data? What it has to do with is, we've got to get to a place where we're able to make business decisions based on the insights provided. So the question that we need to ask of the business, and the place we're all trying to get, we all want to drive action, right? We all want the business, like, why won't they just do something? It's staring them in the face. Well, do they understand that the data is trustworthy is the first, right? Because they're hippos. Remember? They are hippos. They've got their biases and opinions, and you're trying to convince them of something that they got to change, which kind of goes a little bit against that CEO's intuition. They set forth a strategy. They were doing something. You're trying to tell them, wait a minute, what we're doing right now, it may not be working as optimally as we believed. We've got to change. And I love this phrase, so you want to listen to the voice of the customer, but do you want to change? Because if you're not ready to make change, don't even bother. Just fold up, right? If they're not thinking that they're ready to make change, then we're kind of done. So how are we going to make change? Well, by making sure that we're able to make decisions based on the available insights. Now, does that mean we need statistically relevant data? Maybe. We're going to talk about the statistics coming up, but there's a lot of different ways to do it. So that's that's Waypoint's operating definition of trustworthy data. Pretty, just kind of simple, right? Are we able to make decisions? Do we have enough information to be able to make a decision? Does everybody have a different definition of trustworthy data? Okay, I wish I had the clicker. So we just talked about this a little bit, right? This growth rate. Oh, you know what? I actually wanted to. I did want to talk about this example before I move on. And going back here. So and I used this example when I was yesterday when I was in that course, the Flatliners Club course. This happened to me recently. I'm sure you've all had a similar experience. I almost always fly United Airlines because I live in San Francisco and they're a hub and that's the way it goes. But I had to go on a flight recently with Delta Airlines. It was, I swear, the first time I'd ever flown Delta. And I get on the plane and it was actually a remarkably different experience than what I'm used to. Pleasant. I was really pleasantly surprised. Now, unfortunately, when I got to my destination, despite having paid the baggage fee, which is a subject we won't cover in this course, my bags weren't there. Unfortunately, I had to check a bag. Normally, I never check luggage. I had to check my luggage this time, and it wasn't there. Now, the baggage service people were outstanding, just like the flight attendants. Every person I met with on Delta really was outstanding. But here's the problem. They never should have lost my luggage in the first place, right? So I get a survey afterwards that asked, how was your experience with the baggage handling people? How am I supposed to answer that? How am I supposed to answer that? So did anybody in the room run these transactional surveys where you ask, how was your recent support experience? Well, it was fine, I guess, but really I don't appreciate having to call you guys in the first place. So my experience with Delta, boy, I went up to the baggage service folks. Oh, are you plugging me in?
I was trying to find the dongle that you have to plug in.
Yeah.
I don't know where it has gone.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
I'm dongleless. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so when I booked my flight, it routed me through Los Angeles, LAX, onto my final destination. And so I went up to the baggage service folks, and they key in my itinerary, and they go, well, no wonder. You only had a 30-minute layover in LAX. What were you thinking? Right? And I'm like, what do you mean? What was I thinking? And they're like, yeah, well, we see this all the time. It's a very complex airport, very big airport. You only have 30 minutes between your flights. So there's no wonder your baggage got lost. Now, those guys see this all the time, every day, right? They see this all the time. Why does somebody that can do something about fixing the root cause not talk to the people at the front line? So if you're in a B2C situation, how many of you are getting the voice of the employee relative to the customer experience? Could be a good source of insight. Probably not the only one, but could be a good source of insight. Now, whether it's B2B or B2C. Now, I could go one step further. Why not turn this into a revenue opportunity? I hate that baggage fee. Does anybody else hate that baggage fee?
Yes.
So why not put some value add on that baggage fee? You know what? If you guarantee that my bags will get there, then I may not be so grumpy about having to pay that baggage fee. Yes?
Why not just leave it in the price of the ticket?
So Southwest, I think, does that. There's a, right.
Not gonna take the money.
Why not just put it in the price of the ticket and embed it? Because they're trying to undercut and have lower and lower prices and then trick you into creating bad profits later on down the road. So there's a lot of opportunities that we have in this regard with understanding that bottom line customer experience and trying to fix things at the root cause. So again, this baggage experience, and we'll probably pick it up from time to time. Are we getting good?
We're getting
Yes,
it.
Awesome.
we're getting it.
So root cause, I got a survey. I have a number of slides that I can show you what the survey is. We're not going to do that here, but we can dissect the survey. Bottom line is Delta wants to be able to use the feedback as a stick to beat up their employees and use it for performance management. Not necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, right? But don't treat your customers that way, right? That would be my argument. If you're not going to give me something, what's in it for me, then again, don't call it voice of the customer, right? If it's performance management, then call it performance management and do something different with it. So let's just be clear on what the surveys are. We know we should be on that slide. Actually, we should be next one. So, working? No, not working. All right. Well, let's click forward ahead if I could.
Yeah.
So we keep kind of talking about that. So the growth reality, right? Surveys are not going to drive growth on their own, right? No duh. So again, going back to the objectives. Why are we doing this? Why are we collecting the voice of the customer? Because we want to create great customer experiences that create great loyal customers that tell their friends, that buy more, right? And all these great financial benefits. So how is a survey going to help us do this? Well, survey's not enough. Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Clicker.
Yes,
Thank you so
clicker.
much.
You're welcome.
I guess left, right?
Yeah, left and right. Forward,
Perfect.
back.
There we go.
This is the piece that you
Great.
It actually just slides it through over your customer.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So surveys are not going to drive results on their own. What do we need to do? We need to establish dialogues with customers. Surveys are one way. It's a customer talking to you. Do you respond? How many of you respond? Few? Okay. There's a lot of ways that we can respond. We can respond one-to-one. We can pick up the phone and call that customer. We can also have kind of these, maybe focus groups based on what they're saying. We can send out newsletters. There's a lot of things we can do to drive out these dialogues. We've got to have those dialogues. And why do we want to have those dialogues? Well, remember the tree in the middle of the road? I mean, first of all, you're never going to get to root cause in a survey. Just give up the idea. It's not going to happen. And if you want to make improvements, you got to get to root cause. So what is it that, we want our business to make change? Well, we say, our customers are really unhappy with support. And in fact, they're really unhappy with waiting on hold so long. And the executive might say, geez, our service level is 80% of calls answered in 20 seconds. What's wrong with 20-second hold time? Why do I need to fix this? Anybody have any thoughts?
It's not 80%.
It may not be the 80%. It could be the 20% that had to wait not 20 seconds, but 5 minutes, right?
Oh, just because they answer the call doesn't mean they resolve the problem.
Did they actually get the service they need?
Right.
Right. Did they get a resolution of their problem? How about call avoidance in the first place? Right? I mean, there's a lot of root cause. Bottom line is, what we get out of surveys are symptoms. We'll get, just like when you go to the doctor, okay, it hurts when I do this. And then, how much would you love for the doctor to say, well, stop doing that, right? The doctor's supposed to get there and diagnose the problem. Doctor will ask you a series of questions. Hopefully we get to the right answers. We get to the actual diagnosis. You can't get to the diagnosis unless you're following up with folks. So we're going to get to those dialogues. How do we get to those dialogues? Through the front line, right? Why do we get to those dialogues through? Now, if you're in B2B, let's take some B2B examples. Why do you need the front line? SAP, I know you guys are all about this stuff. Yeah, any volunteers or any other B2B folks? Yeah.
Our organization, like pharmaceutical vaccine sales, we just started our VoC, and right away, we have to have a VOE program because we're going to get more VoC that way because they're our front line. Our reps are front line.
The reps are your front line. They hear a lot of the right. Customer service reps, and especially, so that's your consumer segment, or is that it's
Physicians,
physicians, right? Okay, so it's sort of masses. I mean, they talk to more customers in one day than we typically talk to all year, right? Or those customer service reps really do know a few things. Now, for B2B, what about? Let's take this B2B example, and then I'll come back to the B2C. What does this mean? Engaging the front line. Who's in a B2B environment that might think of what? Yes.
Well, it's talking, even though we're B2B, we still have people at our company that interact with that other company. So it's talking to our consultants that are out there installing their products. It's talking to the people that are processing the claims on behalf of these companies, so that kind of stuff.
There are insights that they can give you. They also can give you something really important, which is to tell you who are the people at this account that we should be talking to get feedback from, right? So if you're in B2B, that's a very complex buying decision. There's a lot of influencers and decision makers and project managers and people kind of swarming all around. Who are you getting feedback from? All three? You're doing that right now? Perfect. Anybody else getting good representative feedback? Are you talking to the people that matter in a B2B setting? Maybe not. Many people talk, in B2B kinds of programs, we see a lot of times they're talking to the people that are in their CRM system, which guess what? I'll guarantee you they're not the right people. They're purchasing folks, they're end users, maybe it's a decision maker that ultimately signed off on the deal. Are they really the people that are going to be able to give you great feedback on how to improve the experience? I doubt it. Now in a B2C engagement, we talked about voice of employee, right? In my Delta Airlines example, those baggage service folks can really help pinpoint the problem if only we engage them, right? So that is an important element in and of itself. Now, so what do we need to do? Has anybody seen this?
Happy drops.
Yeah, I mean, at Christmas time, these poor guys and gals, they're metric, they're comped on, the certain number of deliveries they just got to do. So at Christmas time, they literally are chucking stuff over the wall, right? And there's nothing they can do about it. They've got to meet their metric. We don't want to chuck stuff over the wall, to use a nice, cute little analogy, because I kind of like dogs. We were talking about dogs earlier. We need to engage in teamwork, which means there are pieces of the business, the frontline folks, that we need to give the what's in it for them, right? We're asking them to change. We're asking them to do something that's kind of an unnatural act for human beings. We're not very good at this, most people, right? So if we're asking them to change, it means we really have to come to this without an agenda, with insightful data, and try to engage them in a way that's going to create a what's in it for them. And what is the what's in it for them? Well, we need to have the right dialogues with the right people at the right time, to get the right insights, to improve relationship strength that ultimately are going to drive revenue growth, which means as employees we're going to make more money. Now, is that enough? Maybe not. Barb, did you? Yeah, I mean, what?
I just find with employees that you can talk all you want about how the growth of the company and how they succeeded, but they need a piece of that pie. They need some other reward. And it may be the work environment, it may just be silly little things they get on the desk randomly, but they need, just to give them a statement that wow, you've contributed to the bottom line of the company usually isn't enough.
Yeah, to just tell them, hey, be a good corporate citizen. Yeah, probably not enough. So how many of you tie compensation to customer feedback? Few. How do you do it?
Not good.
Yeah? It's a loaded question, right? I kind of gave you a face. It's hard because if you're using your program as sticks, why does somebody want to give you good, candid dialogues? Right? We start off at the beginning of the chain, and if you can, I hope you can read this in the back. It says, candid dialogues with the right people at the right time, kind of throughout the chain. It all starts with candid dialogues. If you're comping people based on scores, do you think you're going to have candid dialogues? They're probably gaming it, right? You're probably working around it, and especially if you're in B2B, you're probably not talking to the right people. So to get to those candid dialogues, we've got to give the what's in it for them. So why not comp based on participation? Right? As an idea. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can do it, but just sort of broadly, we give you a bonus based on response rates. So if you're a call center agent, you should tee up the idea that we need to get feedback. So you could train your agents to make sure that they talk the feedback talk, your feedback. We need the good, the bad, and the ugly. We need to know specifically what you're thinking. You're going to get a survey, and you have to be brutally honest, right? Drive up response, not drive up scores. We don't want to artificially inflate scores. So that's another important element. So net, who loves Oreos as much as Juliet and I? Nobody? You do? Who loves Oreos as much as, right? It's just the good stuff in the middle, right? I mean, the cookies are sort of the means to the end. They're a cream delivery vehicle.
Necessary.
There's two things that we've got to do in order to get to that yummy cream in the middle. The first is we got to have that clear, clean contact list. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about trustworthy data. Just to bring it back, we're talking about trustworthy data. Trustworthy data starts with this idea that we're having candid dialogues with the right people at the right time. So that means candid dialogues with the right people. How many people are absolutely sure that the feedback you're getting are from the right people that really can give you the right feedback? So we have some work to do there, right? Again, in B2B it's a little more complex. In B2C, here's another example. Lego. Neat little example. What did they do, right? They're B2C. They wanted feedback. Who's the decision maker for Legos?
Mom and dad.
Right. Kids, moms and dads, kind of both, right? Kind of neither, kind of both. It's complex, right? But they cracked the code on this by creating a community of kids that can interact with Legos online and they can watch, so they're not collecting any specific information that they couldn't be, but right, they're able to get kids' feedback through some online interaction. They're able to get adult feedback by asking some specific, pointed surveys. But again, there's a good mix there. So B2B, B2C, doesn't really matter. Make sure you're talking to the right people. Find ways to get to those people and find ways to get to that core decision maker and those key influencers. Measure coverage. How many of you are measuring, so you got 100% of your customer base, right? You're sending a survey. How many people are receiving the survey? 100% of your customers? Probably not. How many, right? Is it 10%? 20%? So right off the top, you've already, right, maybe it's not trustworthy because you've only talked to 10% of your install base. And then what's your response rate? Is it 100%? We're going to talk about response rates later and how important it is, but drive up response. You got to do that because if you got 100% of your install base but you're only measuring 10% of those, and then you only get a 10% response rate, that's a 1% coverage. Is that trustworthy if you want to make a $100 million investment in new products? I don't know. It'd be hard for me to make that decision. The second thing is the follow-up process. How many of you have like closed loop follow-up process? The survey will send out an alert. Few. So you get survey feedback. How many of you are, so who are you following up with? For those that raise their hand. The customer, detractors. Yeah, how about promoters? Right? Promoters, people who love you, people who gives you high scores, they love you. They love you. Great source of feedback, right? And we can follow up with them too. In fact, we'll probably get more out of it. Now, low score folks, it's sort of hygiene. It's like taking a shower. You got to do it every day. But you got to follow up with those guys because you got to address their issues. Promoters give you an opportunity to grow further. They'll give you insight that you otherwise probably are not going to get from those detractors. So not only is that a differentiated experience on its own, but you can gain a lot from it. Here's an example. This is a client of ours of the type of activity that can occur when we're following up properly. We were talking before about what's in it for me. We received an alert from one of our largest customers. I called him straight back. We put an action plan in place to resolve his issues. We saved a $750,000 account, and then we sold an incremental $250,000. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that happens all the time. This is the what's in it for me. This is, so if you're an account manager in B2B, if you're a salesperson in B2C, wherever you are, they can make more money. They will make more money by helping you drive dialogues that bring the right kind of insights. How are they going to make more money? Well, we conducted a survey of 800 salespeople that were running pretty mature voice of customer programs. And we asked them, how many of you, you've been receiving this customer feedback, how many of you feel like you've been able to enhance the customer relationship by having the feedback? How many of you have been able to resolve a customer issue? How many of you have been able to identify new sales opportunities? How many of you have met new contacts as a result of this program? People that you didn't know that were in your buying decision or that were influenced, right? And I hope you in the back can see these numbers. These numbers are pretty staggering. If you're in a marketing organization and you're running a typical marketing campaign, what sort of ROI, what sort of return rate are you used to getting? Any marketers in here?
90
Yeah.
to 4%.
2 to 4%, right?
If it's employees, that's increased by 60%.
Yeah.
65% to 2%.
I mean, these are some pretty interesting numbers, and it basically says, at the end of the day, what are our account teams, what are our sales teams, what are our consultants, what are our service employees, what are they paid to do? They're paid to talk to people. They're paid to make relationships. This is going to help them do their job better. We got to show them where the money is, and where the money is going to come from 3 major areas. I call it the 3 V's. We're going to come back to the three V's in a little bit. But the 3 V's are essentially value, velocity, and volume. Help me define those. Value. That's an easy one. Value. How are we going to make more money? We're going to increase the value of our customers. How are we going to do that? Anyone? It's not a trick question. Repeat purchases, stay with you longer. Right. They cross-sell, upsell. They'll tell friends. There'll be references. Right? That's getting a little bit into velocity in mind. We don't need to have such, kind of clear boxes around each word, but I think about references and referrals as velocity. Velocity is accelerating the speed of revenue. We want to get there faster. What salesperson doesn't want to close more business more quickly? Right? They all do. They all want to accelerate their velocity of deal making. Voice of customer will accelerate that. How? You got more references. Who's going to give you referrals? Where do your best referrals come from? Customers who love you, right? They refer business all the time. If you can activate and harness that, you're going to accelerate your velocity by definition. Volume, right? You're going to create more deals. Cross-sells, upsells, but also the inflow of new customers. So net is, these folks at the front line, They are, whether they're commissioned or otherwise, they really can help you do the kinds of things that your business needs to do, which are the 3 V's. Questions on that? So we're gonna get pretty close into an exercise that I want to do, and before we get there, we're going to talk a little bit about statistics. Any statisticians in the room? One? Just one? 2? Yes, right. You can raise your hand. Few. So I have a certain sort of tainted view. I'm an economist by training, by education, but I'm not really a big statistician with regards to voice of customer, and here's why. Statistics kind of let us do this. They use, maybe I shouldn't use the word obfuscate. They confuse, they clarify, they cloud. We can hide behind statistics pretty easily. So there's a couple of kind of things with statistics that we all take for granted. One of them is margin of error. So we've seen all kinds of these polling results. A few months ago, all the polls said Newt Gingrich was going to be the Republican nominee, right? Within a margin of error, plus or minus a certain range, right? Now, we actually, and we have the data, I'm not going to get into it here for the interest of time, but we did track, actually, some of these polls. And if you look at